This 41mm Submariner Date combines a ceramic bezel, automatic caliber, and daily wear durability.
Modern luxury watch production depends on both machine repeatability and human judgment, especially when tolerances shrink to micrometer scale.
Incoming case material is certified and dimensionally checked before machining begins, linking traceable stock directly to the Rolex Submariner Date.
The case blank must be positioned precisely before cutting, because every later surface depends on this first reference point.
The first milling pass removes bulk material from oyster steel to establish the exterior geometry of the 41mm Submariner case. Finishing cuts refine the rough form into the recognizable Submariner silhouette, reducing machining marks and tightening dimensional accuracy.
Lug holes determine bracelet alignment and long-term wear behavior, so their position must be held within very tight limits.
The crown tube opening must be bored accurately to support winding, time setting, and water resistance at the case wall.
Case back threading creates the mechanical interface needed for controlled sealing torque during final assembly.
Deburring removes sharp residual edges left by machining and prepares the case for inspection and later finishing work.
Blitz. After cutting, the case moves immediately to dimensional control, so geometry can be verified before any finishing value is added. Coordinate measurement checks that critical dimensions remain within tolerance before the case is allowed to advance downstream. Hardness verification confirms that the steel can resist daily abrasion while supporting finishing integrity and long-term sealing performance.
Dial production begins with a stamped brass blank, because dimensional consistency here supports every later dial operation.
Galvanic treatment builds the dial's controlled surface and color stability before markers or print are added.
Surface finishing gives the dial its final visual character, balancing color depth with reflection control for daily legibility.
Applied indices are prepared in exact order so placement can proceed without hesitation or orientation errors. Each marker is a separate manufacturer.
Index placement demands hand control because visual symmetry cannot be delegated entirely to automation.
Completing the second row of indices turns the dial from a treated blank into a legible watch component. This is where manufacturing begins to feel. Final dial inspection looks for defects that broad overhead lighting might hide, including particles, misalignment, or inconsistent surface response.
Movement assembly begins with the main plate because every later component depends on its geometry and cleanliness.
Ruby bearings reduce friction at key pivot points, but only if they are pressed squarely into the main plate.
The barrel bridge must match the main plate precisely because it will later control the alignment of the power delivery system.
Mainspring installation stores the energy that will drive the caliber, and it still relies on tactile control rather than speed.
Center wheel tooth quality matters because this wheel transfers torque through the movement continuously during operation. By now, the cost is moving from visible casework into hidden precision.
Staging parts in sequence reduces handling errors and keeps assembly efficient without rushing delicate operations. Gear train installation demands patience because multiple pivots must settle simultaneously into hidden bearing points.
Bridge placement is one of the few movement steps where guided automation can help alignment without replacing human control. The machine pallet fork geometry is critical because the escapement must unlock and impulse with exact timing at microscopic scale.
Escape wheel inspection confirms the impulse surfaces that interact directly with the pallet fork during operation. Escapement assembly links stored mainspring power to controlled release, one impulse at a time. The balance and hairspring determine the rate stability of the movement, so their behavior must be read before final installation.
Once the balance is installed, the caliber starts converting energy into measured oscillation.
Bracelet production begins with separate link blanks, each cut to support later articulation and finishing consistency.
Link profile milling shapes the bracelet for comfort, strength, and the visual identity associated with the oyster.
Brushing creates the linear surface texture that gives the bracelet its restrained luxury appearance while maintaining repeatability across multiple links.
Connector pin fitting turns separate links into a wearable structure, and hand testing reveals stiffness that machines cannot.
Clasp inspection verifies the part of the watch the owner will interact with most often outside the crown. Daily perceived quality depends heavily.
Crown knurling adds tactile control, while test fitting confirms the interface that supports winding, time setting, and water resistance.
Case flank brushing creates a disciplined surface texture that must stay perfectly linear across the visible side of the watch. Chamfer polishing defines the transition between brushed and mirror-finished surfaces, and those boundaries must remain sharp. Caseback finishing prepares a surface the owner sees less often, but which still reflects the standards of the entire watch. The ceramic bezel combines functional durability with one of the watch's most recognizable visual elements.
Bracelet finishing extends case quality across every visible link, ensuring surface rhythm remains consistent from lug to clasp.
Ultrasonic cleaning removes finishing residue, dust, and compounds before assembly begins.
Raking light inspection is designed to expose flaws that diffuse overhead lighting can conceal. Only surfaces that remain clean. Finishing sign-off formally records that the visible metalwork has passed control before assembly starts. The Rolex Submariner Date 126.
The movement ring creates the controlled interface between the caliber and the case body. It keeps the movement correctly located so
Movement installation unites the watcher's hidden mechanism with the finished case that protects it from shock, moisture, and wear. Crown and stem insertion connects the owner's hand directly to winding and time-setting functions inside the sealed case. Dial fitting places the watch's visible identity over the hidden mechanics without disturbing the movement beneath.
The hour hand must be seated at the correct height and orientation to maintain both readability.
Minute installation builds the layered hand stack that translates the movement's motion into useful information.
Sapphire crystal installation protects the dial and hands while preserving optical clarity under daily use.
Caseback torquing converts threaded geometry into a repeatable sealing load that supports the watch's water resistance target. Bracelet attachment turns the case into a wearable object and confirms that lug geometry, link tolerances, and clasp alignment all work together. Quickset date testing confirms that the crown, stem, movement, and display parts are interacting correctly after casing. The complete watch is now checked as a single product rather than a collection of finished components. With assembly complete, the next stage.
Pressure testing verifies that the sealed case can withstand the loads expected of a 300-meter rated dive watch.
Dial-up timing reveals how consistently the caliber runs once fully cased, helping confirm that assembly has not altered rate behavior.
Power reserve verification measures how long the caliber can run after full winding, linking stored energy to practical daily.
Final magnification inspection searches for particles, hand alignment faults, or surface marks that broad viewing could miss.
final sign-off confirms that appearance, function, and measured performance have all passed the required controls. A luxury date and bezel function testing confirms that the controls the owner touches most often still feel precise after all earlier handling. The packaging begins by supporting the watch in a stable presentation form that protects both finish and bracelet geometry. By this, documentation links the finished watch to its recorded identity, preserving the traceability built into every stage of production. The Rolex
Warranty and supporting papers complete the commercial package by carrying service and ownership information alongside the watch. Automated outer sealing standardizes the final package, so presentation and protection remain consistent across shipments.
Dispatch is the last controlled step in a chain that transformed certified steel, separate components, and measured labor into a finished Rolex sports watch.